All right, what's up, Turtle Riders, and welcome to Uncle Turtle Boy's Late Night Garage Podcast. This podcast brought to you by our good friends over at Garage Doors Plus in Quincy. You can find them online at gdplus.com. If you have one of those old rickety garages where you got to get out of your car, go over, open the garage door like a moron, lift it up, get back in your car, drive into the garage, get out of the car, manually go over and pull it down. It's time to get with the times. Call up our friends. My buddy Chris over at Garage Doors Plus in Quincy. They've been doing quality craftsmanship since the beginning of time. They'll pretty much go anywhere in New England except for Coleraine. And he'll come over that day. He will give you a fair price. It's going to be so fair that you're probably going to hire him on the spot. And you're going to thank me later because he's going to get it done that day. All right, you'll have a nice little clicker. Boom, problem solved. Life is good. Garage Doors Plus in Quincy. All right, folks. So what's happening, Turtle Riders? We're starting to roll in here. That's great. What are people saying? Bruins are kicking out. Oh, the Bruins are up 5-0, huh? Woo, look at them. They're rolling. I mean, does it really matter how the Bruins are doing? I mean, the way the stupid playoffs are set up, no matter what, we play fucking Toronto. So what's the point, right? I mean, it's hard to get into hockey because of that. I hate the way they play. The three best teams in the NHL are all in the same division. It's stupid. Anyway, what else are people saying here? Hey, yo, Bruins kicking ass. Let's see. So happy that justice was served. Thank you. Yes, that's one thing. Let me start off by saying that. So I won the my harassment order here against Charlotte, who's insane. I was somewhat surprised, but not really surprised that Charlotte was in court that day. And by the way, I still don't know what gender Charlotte is. Charlotte might be a chick, like a real chick, who wants to look like a boy so that she can pretend to be trans. I don't freaking know what the hell's up with Charlotte. I don't think Charlotte's all there. So anyway, I had court. I did not think that, Charlotte would show up. But then I realized, what else does Charlotte really have to do? Charlotte's insane. And Charlotte really thinks that, I have committed some crime against her, even though I've never spoken to this individual. And so, yeah, it was awesome. You go in there and, I just laid out the facts. I'm like, hey, here's the deal. This person next to me, here's a message she sent, a post she said, saying that wouldn't it be a shame if his house burnt down with a Molotov cocktail? Don't know how much more threatening or direct you can be with that, especially since this individual works with, fires for a freaking hobby. And, I read all the other ones, to the judge. There was dozens of them. And so then it was her turn to speak or whatever, and Charlotte says something to the effect of, well, Your Honor, Brett said on this date, blah, 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 and then Tammy Woods Emerson said this, and blah, 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 and the judge is just kind of rolling his eyes like, what does any of this, do you deny posting this about the Molotov cocktail? Well, no, Your Honor. Okay, then, that's it. And do you consider that a threat? Well, Your Honor, I think it's common sense that if someone's house burns down with a Molotov cocktail, that would be a shame. All I said was that would be a shame. And the judge kind of rolled his eyes like, oh, geez. And then I got the harassment order. So for whatever that's worth, if this individual attempts to contact me again, they will be getting arrested. And yeah, so that's my time in court. So I win. Yay. Still undefeated in court, by the way. Still have yet to lose. So, anyway, do you think Charlotte cried up to a storm to the ADA afterwards? No, I don't, because we were in Leominster. We're in my home court advantage now, you know what I mean? So, even though I don't live in Leominster, I don't mind driving to Leominster. It's a nice trip. So, the ADA there would be on my side, since I was home court this time. And so I don't know what they're going to do with the ADA out in Suffolk District Court or whatever. I did get a call back from the Bar Council, and honestly, with them, it doesn't sound too hopeful because the intake lady looked it over and she's like, I don't know if we're going to investigate this. It just seems like they cover up for ADAs there. That they're very reluctant to go after an ADA. Maybe they go after a private attorney who screwed over a client, but they're going to go out of their way to try to justify what this woman did. And whatever. I mean, it is what it is. If we don't get it, I made my peace. I made a fucking pain in the ass for her, so it is what it is. All right. So, as usual, we could talk about whatever you want to talk about, but I definitely want to talk about some things on the agenda here tonight. And one of them, I definitely want to talk about the story out of North Andover, because that was a really interesting story. So, out of North Andover, right? This is fucked up, and it kind of I can relate to this because, I was a teacher. So this story, and I wrote this one personally, so I can relate to what has happened here, right? So when Obama became president in 2009 or whatever, right? He really operated, and Bush did the same thing. They operated under the belief that kids were failing in schools, right? Like no child left behind, right? We have to make sure every kid gets an education and graduates and goes to college. But that's just not reality. Not every kid is meant to go to college, like Lori Loughlin's stupid kids, right? So anyway, he takes over and he's like, going to start implementing some policies designed to keep kids in school. That's the idea here. And they're operating under the assumption, right, that schools are just kicking kids out for no reason, just suspending kids for frivolous reasons, and then they drop out, and then they get stuck in the school to prison pipeline, and then, it's unfair to minorities, and blah, 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 blah. It's the only people that say that kind of stuff are people that have never worked in schools. Come work at where I worked at Fanning, right, for like a day. I dare you. It's it'll blow your mind. It's so eye-opening, the shit I saw there on a daily basis. And you realize that some kids are just assholes, right? It is what it is. You can't reach these kids. And whatever, it's your job to be there to help them if they want help. But if they're going to come to school and disrupt and, violate the school rules and this and that, you got to suspend them, period. Rules are rules. We don't have special rules for problematic kids. If a kid that never got in trouble, and you saw this a lot, right? Like, kids that never got in trouble, like Shepherd Hill, when they were, committed an offense that could get them suspended for the first time, you better believe they got suspended. They were made an example of. But it was the repeat offenders that always got this fucking long cord because, we had to, these kids come from fucked up situations and blah, blah, blah. So that's the idea that Obama came, right? Like, let's keep every kid in school. And he actually signed an executive order, right, that limited the amount of suspensions a school could have for students of color. Because he's operating under the assumption that schools are racist, right? And that only the federal government can protect these students from the racist teachers or whatever. Now, I'm not saying race has to do with this North Andover story, but the idea of keeping kids in school when they shouldn't be in school goes along with that, if you will. So what happens, right? There is an incident last week in New Hampshire, which this student here from North Andover, his name is, what the hell is his name? I forget. Oh, Eli, I think, right? Eli Tuttle. And Eli Tuttle is accused of raping, right, a girl in New Hampshire that went out with him in his car, etc. So, anyway, that's not good. But this opens up a can of worms because, as it turns out, he's got a bunch of other allegations as well. And last year, in April, a student at North Andover accused him of the same thing, right? Of driving around with her and then getting really gropey and she had to push him off of her or whatever. And it was like, freaking Kavanaugh on steroids, like the allegation against Kavanaugh, like much worse though, much heavier. Even though she was never actually raped or anything like that, it's kind of like, I don't know what that qualifies as, attempted rape, whatever. Like, this is the report. It says, Eli Tuttle picked me up at the practice with my intentions of us listening to music and driving around for a bit. He drove through Middleton for about 10 to 15 minutes, then drove me down the dead end. Yeah, first of all, who just drives around? They smoking pot. I mean, just be honest. Then drove me down the dead end of Sharpener's Pond Road. Eli forcefully tried to take my clothes off and violate me. I told him to stop 3 or 4 times, and I told him that I had just got out of a relationship and didn't want any of this. He got on top of me, and I used my knees to defend myself and push him off of me. He drove me home immediately afterwards and made sure that nobody at school was going to find out about this from me and that I was good at keeping secrets. Later that night, I came home crying and called the rape hotline for advice on what to do. The next morning, I told my principal and counselors he was arrested that morning. Now he's out pending the next hearing. So that's not good. He never ends up going to jail for this. He got a Bob Kraft special. He got a quaff, essentially. A quaff is when you admit, and this is what Bob Kraft has literally been offered by the state of Florida, when you admit that you are, the facts against you are sufficient enough that a reasonable jury would find you guilty, and you don't want to take a conviction, you can get a continuance without a finding. And you're basically put on probation for a year or whatever, a year or two, and if you commit any infractions at all, then you get found guilty of this crime that you were alleged to have committed before. So he took a quaff. Quaffs are extremely common. Everybody's ever been in court before knows what a quaff is. I remember that happened one time. I was in a driver's ed class in Leominster one time, right? Because I got 3 surchargeable events in 1 year, so I'm with all these dope heads up in Leominster at this, class for troubled drivers. And some guy made that joke. He's like, yeah, I got a quaff. And he's like, everybody in this room knows what a quaff is, right? And everybody's like, yeah, we all know what a quaff is. So that's what a quaff is. So we got that. Anyway, this guy's on the track team. This is where it gets fucked up. He's on the track team, and he's a wrestler. And they don't kick him out of school, right? Because, and this all goes back to the Obama shit, right? Because these schools' hands are tied, right? They don't want to, maybe they could suspend him, they just don't want him. Because that wouldn't look good on the data. Suspending too many kids. So they keep him in a school, and they develop a school safety plan, right? But the school safety plan is not just for him. It's for her too. She doesn't get to dictate terms of this, right? She has to sign it and follow it, and if she disobeys or violates the plan, then she gets in trouble. So a victim is being re-victimized by being forced. I mean, think of this, right? She's a student who should be able to live her life, right? She's been victimized here. Let's not forget that. If what she's alleging is true, she has, in fact, been victimized. It is not incumbent upon her to alter her behavior in order to avoid this kid. So these kids are going to the same school. I don't know how big North Andover High School is, but they're going to, eventually cross paths. So they come up with a plan that's like, okay, you have this class at this time. He has class here. They figure out the logistics. So they say, you're going to go this way when you get out of class. He's going to go this way. And that way you'll never see each other. It's just so unrealistic. It's stupid. It's stupid. I taught in high school. There's a lot of variables that occur day to day. What happens if there is a fire drill, right? Are they going to not see each other during a fire drill? What happens if there's an assembly? Does he not go to the assembly? Right? Do they agree on that? What happens if, she has to go to the nurse if she gets sick or something like that, or he has to go to the nurse? What happens if they go both get a bathroom pass at the same time? It's so stupid and unrealistic for any administrator to set this up. And to make her sign this is so patently absurd and wrong that it just boggles my mind, right? And this is 2018 this happened. This isn't back in the day. Me Too was the thing by then. And they're making a woman, a vice principal, a female vice principal, right, makes her sign this ridiculous agreement in which she agrees to surrender her rights to walk wherever she wants, even though she's been victimized, right? Because they don't want to kick out the kid who was alleged to have raped her and who admitted in court that there were sufficient facts against him. So that's insane. Insane that this happened, right? And it looks like they took the tweet down. Did they take this down? This usually means when the tweet doesn't come up here. Let me see what happens here. Or is it still up? It's gone. They took it down. That means they've been reading the blog. I love that. That means they've been reading the blog. So there was a tweet from the North Andover track team. And it said something that, he's a star of the track team. They have a really good shuttle hurler relay team there. and they like broke some record and they put him on there or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is still up. That's a little bit awkward because now he's been accused 3 times. Because it turns out, once the story comes out, so we got the rape in New Hampshire, we got the attempted one in Middleton, right? And then you have a third victim comes forward, right? And this individual comes forward and she says that he was 16 and she was 15, and he basically pulled the same move, right? And that was, he took her in the back seat, got a little gropey, etc. And she said that she was offered the same deal. Now, her mother isn't afraid to use her real name, which is interesting, Michelle Crowey. And Michelle Crowey says that the school came to them with that same thing, right? And they refused to sign it, right? And the girl was too fragile to testify, the police said. Rape is a very hard, crime to get a conviction on because, think about it. It's all he said, she said. Everything in a rape case is he said, she said. And if there was sex involved, then it's consensual, right? Unless you got a rape kit done right after the way that can show, tearing and stuff like that, it's really hard to prove a rape. And so, and the worst part about a rape trial is the victim has to, who's already fucked up enough has to go in front of, the guy who raped her in a jury and talk about the most traumatic event of their life. That's what pissed me off, by the way, so much about Christine Blasey Ford. I still hate that cunt, right? What she did. She fucking lied. That woman got away with lying in front of Congress. And what she did, not only, she did it all for attention because she was just doing her part in the resistance or whatever, but she, hurts legitimate, women who are legitimate victims of sexual assault. People like this. People like these girls, right? Now, notice I'm not even here to talk about him. Obviously, what he's doing is so problematic and so fucked up that I don't know how you get like this when you're 18, right? I went on his mother's page today. His mother seems like a regular mother, right? The kid seems like he comes from a good home in North Andover, and he just has a raping problem. What? How do you get like that? How do you not? I don't know if the mother's enabling him or whatever, but it's out of control. And the fact that North Andover High School didn't put the kibosh on this already. That's 2 allegations, man. 2 credible allegations and a quaff. And he's still out there. And they're not, letting the world know this guy is problematic. He's been accused of rape twice. What mother would let their kid get in the car with him, if they knew that? What girl would get in the car with him if they knew he had those allegations against him, right? So it's all fucked up. So let's see what people are saying. Let's see. You ever have one? I have. They stay on any cop that looks at your record, sees it, same as background checks. It does, Matt. I have had a quaff before, believe it or not, and it doesn't show up. Now, I didn't commit a crime or anything like that. There was an incident. I moved out of an apartment, right? I had an ongoing freaking feud with my landlord, and they stole my keg. I had a keg. They stole my keg. This is 12, 13 years ago. And the landlord, Joisa Perez is this woman's name. She's a former principal of Goddard Elementary School in Worcester. She was fired. Terrible lady. And we had an ongoing feud with this woman. And we went upstairs to the attic and we found her diary up there. Oh man, I could do a blog in the Joisa Perez diary. It was this summer she went away to Colombia, and then she met a guy down there. It was the most dramatic story. She thought she had left a boyfriend back home, and she thought that she was pregnant, and she contemplates having an abortion in her diary. And then she gets her period. It's a fucking great day. And then, but now she's in love with some other guy down in Colombia. And then at the end, the guy turns out to be gay. It's one of the greatest things I've ever read. So she didn't like me because of that. Because I went through her diary and I found all this shit. Because she sent her boyfriend after me after they stole the keg. And at the end, they freaking put. So the apartment was a piece of shit, right? She takes a bunch of freaking meat and puts it in the ceiling panels. Right, the ceiling was fucking ghetto. It was majorly in need of a new one. She puts all this freaking meat in the ceiling, I guess, and I guess that causes fucking rotting and smelling and shit. And so she calls up and calls the police on me and blames it on me that I put the meat in the ceiling. She wanted me to pay for a new ceiling. That's all it came down to. That's how crazy this bitch is. And her dad's a judge, Easy Louis Perez, they called him. And basically, I'm in there. I had to get a lawyer and shit. I was like, I don't know, 22 years old at the time, 23. So they're like, yeah, like this woman's fucking dad's a judge, and that's problematic. And this is a he said, she said thing. And she really just wants a new ceiling. So how about, like, she wanted like $2,500. I think we agreed to pay like $1,000 and got a quaff. So that's my quaff story. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, but it doesn't come up like when people search for me or anything like that. So I think I'm good. I don't know. Anyway, what are people saying about that story? The mother, yeah, the cops might be able to see past the ceiling record. That's true. That's true. I don't know if like regular Joe Schmoes, if you go down to the courthouse, can find that though. Hillary saying the mother should have pulled him from the school for the sake of the girls' son attacked. Yeah, I mean, I definitely. I mean, you got to stop enabling these kids. Shamrock says keg for yourself. No, I had roommates back then. That was back in my party days. What's Willie saying? No, it's not. We'll agree to disagree. Oh, okay, so you're talking to someone else. Gotcha. It should be noted that if something is good enough to be sealed, then it's good enough to not have been a serious infraction. Exactly. How is that not different? You're talking about taking a whole extra step with an attorney. You have to pay for that. I'm not sure what we're getting at here. I don't want to talk about my quaff. That's embarrassing. I know, I could tell you, I could write a whole book about my life stories. Let me tell you that much. I got tons of stories like that. Tons of stories. Whew. Anyway, let's go into the other story that had to do with this shit. This dude, Dante Comparetto, really pisses me off so much. So this piece of shit here, and this is an education theme podcast, if you will. So this is a story that's local to Worcester, but really it can relate to anyone, around the world, because Dante is part of this whole freaking this whole AOC fucking phenomenon going on in this country, right? Where the left has radicalized majorly, and these lunatics have become mainstreamed in the party. They don't reject these people anymore. They embrace them. Dante is a career criminal junkie. Let's be honest, he's a fucking junkie who has a daughter who he abandoned to do drugs, and a big old fat South African white wife named Martha. And they owned a juice shop that failed. And he's like an activist, social justice bullshit douchebag. And he wants to get on the Worcester School Committee. And so he runs and he gets like a whole bunch of money. And the EAW, the teachers union, gets his back and all this shit. And I'm like, there's no fucking way this guy can get elected. He got elected. He made it on. And since then, he's been proposing these perverted sex ed curriculums where 11-year-olds play HIV, STD, Jeopardy, and they go out and they learn about anal sex and how to give a hand job and like really graphic shit that's just not even remotely appropriate. But, it all goes along with this whole like radical left-wing agenda that they're trying to push. Like, I'm not saying do abstinence only in school. Nobody's saying that. But whatever happened to the days where you just tell a kid to put on a rubber, right? And let's be honest, they're not going to do it anyway, right? We all agree with that. Like, they might the first time. We've all been there, right? You use a condom, whatever, because you're being safe and you don't want to get a chick pregnant and all this shit. And that first time comes along, right? You've been drinking, and next thing you know, right, you're like, okay, let's just a tip for a second. No, just for a second. It's never just for a second, is it, right? And next thing you know, boom, you're like, wow, I've been missing this. My relationship with condoms is over. So we can tell kids to use condoms all they want, and they might a couple times, until they realize the sweet sensation of raw dog. And at that point, they're never going back, are they? I mean, we all agree with this, right? So, anyway, people are saying rubbers don't feel good. Yeah, who likes, condoms, it's like, don't even get me started on condoms. I could write a whole thing on that. Anyway, so Dante's on, and he writes this freaking email, right, about teachers that just really pissed me off, right? And so it's from this group called Greater Worcester Hour Revolution, some fucking bullshit organization here. And it says, this is from Dante, an email that he sent to them. The fight against injustice continues, and I'm asking for your help. Show up to the school committee meeting tomorrow at City Hall. The reason why I need you there is because crazy amounts of racism are still happening in our schools. So he's accusing teachers and principals of being racist because new data shows that school discipline rates are on the rise for our students of color. First of all, why does that equal racism? Even if suspension rates were going up for students of color, how does that prove racism? That's all these people do, is they just look at numbers and they go, racist. The only way that we can get rid of racism is if we stop suspending students of color, even when they rape chicks in school, right? Or you can't do it because you're a protected class. I mean, the lengths that these people go through, and this is a guy who was never taught in schools, right? If you teach in schools, you know that I've written kids up so many times for shit when they've committed suspendable offenses. And then it comes back and they're like, talk to the student, they won't do it again. The kids never get suspended. It's hard to get. So to act like schools are just handing out suspensions willy-nilly is insane, right? It's insane. Schools don't suspend nearly enough kids. And anybody who's actually been in the trenches and has worked in public education knows that. Of course, Dante wouldn't know that because Dante never graduated from high school. Think about that. We have a guy on our school committee in the second largest city in New England who's a high school fucking dropout, a fucking drug addict, right? And he actually spoke at a graduation at Forest Grove Middle School last year and told the kids, right? Hey kids, I graduated. I dropped out of high school and I became a drug addict. And then I got my life together with activism. So even if you don't succeed in school, you can still become an activist. He actually said that. I'm paraphrasing, but witnesses have told me he said that. But there are, crazy amounts. That's his science. I mean, this is insane from a litter. This is just a rabble rouser. But this is the AOC style. This is the new thing from the left. Just ignorance, right? From what I am hearing from the superintendent, it sounds like the committee tasked with reducing school suspensions is going in the wrong direction. So the superintendent, Maureen Benenda, who was my principal at South High School for, she was there for like 30 years, right? Has dedicated her entire life to public education, right? South High is one of the most diverse and problematic schools in Massachusetts, right? I had a really interesting high school experience going there. It was cool. But it was also ghetto as shit. I went to a really ghetto school. So she works with these kids, though. She loves it. She wouldn't have wanted to been in the suburbs, right? She wouldn't have known what to do there. She's so good with kids like this. So for this junkie who has never worked in public schools to suggest that the superintendent, who was a saint, who was dedicated her life to this, to working with kids like this, for him to call her and allude that she is a racist, that just pisses. I take those personally, man. Fuck people like him. And I've invited Dante's bitch ass on this show multiple times. He won't come on because he's a fucking pussy. Maybe I'll confront him sometime on video. I need to do more confrontations, right? But like, Dante, how come you won't debate me, pussy? Right? So he goes, I need you to show up in the administration and give administration guidance because as we've seen in the past, the administration only acts when people show up and make demands. So basically show up and scream and yell, right? Request an update from the committee. Tasked with coming up with a plan to reduce school suspensions. Request that they change the student policy handbook regarding headwear. Because God, if we outlaw do-rags, that's problematic. Right? What else does he say here? Request that the administration consider hiring a chief diversity officer. I love chief diversity officers. Every college in America has one. It's the most pointless job ever. You just create a person that gets paid $150,000 a year to be like, okay, I'm going to teach a training seminar about institutional racism and microaggressions that you don't realize are racist, but they're actually racist. That's all these people do, right? Request the city council consider adding a tax to marijuana retailers. We don't even have any marijuana retailers in Worcester yet. And we're already talking about taxing them more to pay for a tutor for every underperforming Worcester Public School student. Do you know how many underperforming Worcester Public School students there are? Thousands. Thousands. And they're all just going to get private tutors now, paid for by, I mean, these people are insane. This is the left, guys. This is what the left has become, the Dantes of the world. In a sane world, the teachers union, which is a leftist organization, would just tell them, no, you're not our brand, right, of Democrat. We support regular Democrats. But this is what they've become. They've embraced people like this, right? And request the administration send out a letter to the State House leadership urging action, like all this bullshit, you know? And so it goes on and on about this, and it just really pisses me off because, like I said, teachers work their ass off, and it's hard. It's a hard job. It's very frustrating, and you don't get paid that much. You get paid an all right salary, enough to, like, you know, be middle class or whatever, but these people pour their hearts and souls into this job. And I worked at Shepherd Hill, and that was tough. Working in Worcester is a lot tougher, man. Working in Southbridge in these urban environments with, like, you know, shitty kids that don't want to learn, that come from bad homes, good luck. It's a lot harder. And I resent the fact that people who have never taught before are dictating this. And here's the best part. Suspension rates went from 9.6% to 9.7%. That's not an increase. That's rounding up. Like, that's what he's fucking mad about. A 0.1% increase. I mean, it's insane. Insane. And, of course, this whole thing is being run by our good friend, Red Danny Margolis. Do we all remember Red Danny? Right? Red Danny used to troll us on our page. He was part of this, like, stupid turtle boycott thing. He really, like, he writes this. He's just the biggest homo loser I've ever seen in my life. And he's the one organizing this Greater Worcester thing. Now, don't forget, Danny Margolis is a legitimate communist. Like, here he is, fucking commie shit everywhere. A quote from him. Dan Margolis, chairman of the Communist Party of New York. Like, what? In the 2008 election of Barack Obama and now his presidency are perhaps the biggest continuation of that revolutionary spirit in a generation. It's like talking about the Communist Party can exercise a leadership role by helping to show the importance of electing or defending Democrats as part of an overall strategy on the road towards socialism. So what he's saying here is his plan is simple. Look it, we're not going to have a revolution where, you know, we take to the streets and commies take over. What we need to do is just get Democrats elected and start kind of pushing towards socialism quietly, and that way they won't notice. And he's fucking done that. Like, this guy is like what, like fucking like helping dictate fucking policy in the city of Worcester. These people have like a whole slate of folks. Like Joe Early, the district attorney, is bragging about the endorsement from fucking Red Danny's group, Our Revolution Greater Worcester. That's insane how mainstreamed this motherfucker has become. And he's got this cast of people. Only old school turtle riders remember these folks. Who remembers Kara Berg Powers and her fat husband there? Jordan. Jordan, who said that I called his daughter a white bitch or something like that, which was just patently made up. And then I called him out on it, and he's like, yeah, you erased it. Okay, Jordan. Kara Berg Powers once accosted a mother, right, who had bought a Turtle Boy shirt for two of her kids, and they were in a grocery store. And she sees them, and she goes over and starts screaming at them and saying, how dare you let your kids wear that? That's racist, blah, blah, blah. Are you fucking kidding me? And then, so she's running for school committee, and so is this bitch, Tracy Novick. Oh, that bitch. Who remembers Gay Danny? Gay Danny used to always say Tracy Novick. That bitch. Yeah, she is one of the waspiest bitches I've ever seen in my life. And I've never seen somebody so obsessed with herself. Just go to Tracy Novick's freaking Twitter feed, and you'll see the window into her madness. And she was on the school committee from 2009 to 2015, and she was like against having cops in schools, and she actually sued the city of Worcester so that panhandlers would have a right to panhandle. I swear to God, teamed up with the ACLU. And they won. So we have fucking junkies everywhere because of this bitch, right? She lives in a tax-free home on the west side, on West Haddock, because it's on like reserved land or some bullshit like that, some loophole that they have there. So they pay no taxes, right? And she was like against having cops in schools, even though a lot of teachers were getting beat up and stuff like that. So we're like, you know what? We need to get rid of this bitch. So we endorsed in that election a slate of candidates we preferred, including a woman named Donna Calorio. And guess what? We overthrew her. And then we took her and we threw her in the fucking Turtle Boy graveyard. And we buried that shit. Right? Well, guess what? Zombie Tracy Novick is back. Red Danny has brought her back. And now they're teaming up. And they're running. Like, it's going to be an interesting November. Worcester politics hasn't been on Turtle Boy in a long time. It's going to be back. Worcester politics is like even more exciting than Fall River politics. Because there's so many fucking names and morons and oh good God, I could go on and on about these morons. So anyway, let's talk about any questions you guys have here. Yeah, they were part of the original SJW patrol. A lot of the SJWs from our yesteryears, they've gone. Like, whatever happened to RBG, Robert Blackwell Gibbs? What the fuck happened to that guy? He was like my original nemesis. He wanted to kill me. He just disappeared. Orange Julius Jones. Where you been? Where you been at? Gone. They're all gone. They've all disappeared. Jonathan Hardy Lavoie. All of them, man. All of them. Yeah, exactly. Like, I wouldn't tell, like Alyssa says, exactly. How can someone tell us how to do our jobs and how to do them when they've never... Are you a teacher, Alyssa? If you are, I didn't know that. But I would say that for any job. Like, I don't tell cops what to do. I don't tell firefighters how to put out fires. I don't tell freaking, CEOs how to run a company. I don't do any of that shit. It's insane. Only teachers get told, like, oh yeah, the Sunshine Kid. That was going. I forgot about the Sunshine Kid. Oh yeah, Wanda. How can I forget? Oh, I still gotta smoke up with Wanda sometime. So anyway, if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know now. And we could talk about it briefly. But yeah, this is like the Bernie. Somebody mentioned Bernie. This is what Bernie Sanders has kind of contributed to this party too. I fucking hate Bernie Sanders. I hate that people like smart people like him too, because they think, oh, he's not like the other Democrats. He's like different. He's not a registered. Yeah, he's fucking worse. He's the worst of all of them. Anybody that thinks free college is a good idea, or that the world's ending in 12 years from global warming is a fucking moron. Right? Moron. Anybody that blindly believes Jussie Smollett is a moron. And it's the crowd that he attracts. He attracts the worst crowd of all the Democrats. There's normal Democrats and there's the Bernie bros. The Bernie bros are insane. And Trump is president because a lot of Bernie bros didn't show up to vote. Thank you. Thank you. Bernie's probably the best thing that ever happened to the Republican Party, because he just brings out the worst in the left. His supporters are terrible. Those people who attacked Chelsea Clinton, awful. Awful. So yeah, that's what Bernie does. Any group that has workers or working or economic or labor in their name is almost always a socialist group. It's so true. It's so true. What do you think of the lawsuit over the Fall River recall? That's very interesting. I saw that. I think, I mean, I don't pretend to know the law at all. It seems like if it was illegal, if what they're saying is that he never should have been eligible to be on the ballot in the first place, because the argument in this lawsuit is that Jason lost the recall and therefore he was ineligible to run for mayor, but they were on the same ballot. So my question is, there's potentially something that could happen, and quite frankly, very likely, then why wasn't this addressed beforehand if it's illegal? You know what I mean? That makes me think they're not going to win this lawsuit, right? But good for them. I mean, Jason's a crook. I hope they never let up on that douchebag. What else are people saying? Yeah, the Sunshine Show was more of a side character. Yeah, he came and went. He was more with Gordon Davis, crazy old Gordon. I feel like only young people like him. Yeah, with Bernie. That's the thing with Bernie is like and that's what makes me think he's fake. Is he's so fucking old, but he appeals to such young folks, right? That like want to start fights with other Democrats, like particularly the Hillary Clinton brand of Democrats. It's so insane. Right? They're just like anti-establishment. They're always just looking to outwoke someone. These people, aren't they? They're just terrible. Republicans don't have this party. Yeah, there's some turds in the punch bowl, right? That are like not jumping on Trump still. They're still like never Trump, never Trump. Those people just get made fun of in the Republican Party, right? Like these people are a joke now. These Billy Crystals of the world, Max Boot, you know, Ben Shapiro was that way for a while too. He was a never Trumper, but he's not going to be in 2020. If you're still a never Trump guy and you're a Republican, I don't know what's wrong with you. I was a hesitant Trump supporter in 2016. I am an enthusiastic Trump supporter in 2020. I cannot wait to vote for him in 2020. And I know a lot of my my family members were never Trump Republicans too, right? Like they voted for Republicans their whole lives, but they didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016. They're all voting for him in 2020. It's going to be, I'm telling you, the ones that can beat him are Beto and Biden. Those are, especially Biden. Beto, the more I look at him, the more see-through he is, if you will. But Biden is a skilled and seasoned politician who should, stand as the biggest threat, in my opinion, to Donald Trump's presidency. Let's see. Do you miss Didi Delgado these days? No, not at all. Your people warm up to him because he promises from the world for free. Exactly. That's all it comes down to. He tells them exactly what they want to hear. Did that little boy from FR have a real job? You talking about the mayor? If that's the question, the answer is no. Unky Junky voice was hilarious. Yeah, definitely got to do some more Unky Junky. It's got to come back. Come on, man. Dude, come on, bro. I'm fiending. Come on. Dude, don't do that. Yeah, definitely got to bring Unky Junky back more often. Let's see. What else are people saying? Bernie at a honey. Yeah, who goes to a honeymoon in the USSR like Bernie did? That's odd. Did you decide on the top 4 for Ratchet Madness? No, I did not. Not yet. However, I'll give you guys a sneak preview. So this is up for interpretation. I still might mess around with this, right? I don't know. My top 4 right now, and this can be switched around, are Greg Bates, Michael Cedania, Maud Gorman, and Mike Gaffney. Those are my 4 1 seeds. Yeah. So I don't know what you people think about that. I can only vote for Trump after watching Hillary's America by Dinesh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right about Julia. It's like the Bernie supporters just turn you off for him. So what do people? Yeah, I got Ryan as a 2 seed. He's definitely. I feel like Mike Gaffney has out-ratcheted him just because Mike Gaffney's involved in his lawsuit. Like he's involved. So fucking. So I don't know what people think of these 4, but last year the 1 seeds really stood out. 3 of them were so easy. Ali Bebo, Leah Genduso, and Didi. The 4th 1 seed was the Burlington Mall Fupa Slug, who was eliminated in the first round by the chick who put a turtle in the microwave. But Maud and Bates should be top 2. Yeah, I mean they're both. This isn't in any particular order, but that's what I have right now. Yeah, Dawson Boston's gonna get in there. Don't worry, Boston's definitely on the list. But it's quite the list, man. I'm telling you, it was really hard to get all these people in there. I mean, I got Franklin Baxley up there with Juice and Jeremy. This is not set in stone, in any way, shape, or form. But I can't wait for the the live show. So I don't want to. What seed? Gaffney was a 16 seed last year. Gaffney lost in the first round to Didi. Got murdered, like 98-2. I think Gaffney is the only one who has come back for this year's tournament from last year. He's the only repeat. So, yeah, I got Mass Health Martinez. She's down towards the bottom. She's on the list. Mass Health Martinez is just the best name. That's definitely the best name. I don't know if she's the most ratchet, though. All right. Yeah, the live show special selection should be the weekend after next. However, I'm going to be at a Celtics game in Brooklyn that night. I'm flying out of Worcester. Worcester goes to New York now. So I'm going to try. I got to figure out when I'm going to do that. But I definitely cannot wait for that. It's going to be awesome. No Sedania? Come on. How's Michael Sedania not a 1 seed? You tell me that much. I mean, how many freaking blogs did Bristol write about this douchebag? How much ratchet shit? The guy used his fucking kid as a prop for and raised like $100,000 off a kid and made up lies about the kid being abused by his freaking meth dealing, baby mama. Yeah. So anyway, how can Juice and Jeremy be selling that Jeep? Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. Will Charlotte make an appearance? I don't know. I mean, the thing about Charlotte is we never really blogged about her till recently, right? And I don't know if Charlotte's as ratchet as she is SJW. You know what I mean? This is ratchet madness, folks. Don't forget about people like Hurricane Beefaroni. There's some really ratchet people on this list. And I just don't know if she qualifies as ratchet, to be perfectly honest with you. So, yeah. All right. Any last minute questions before we call it a night? Free Woody. Yeah. I assume we're talking about the kid smoking the blunts there. That kid will definitely be on he'll definitely be on a future blog. Like my son's going to be writing about that kid when my son inherits the business. I gotta groom my kid to blog. How's that for pressure? How'd you like to be Turtle Boy's son? Anyway. Yeah, Charlotte's just nuts. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm not going to put her in. Yeah, the Aiken Bailey killer. Don't even get me started on that. I trust the police and all. But what the hell was that press conference yesterday? Oh, yeah. No foul play. That's the end of that. The fuck? I certainly hope the Springfield PD is taking a much longer look at Dante Pagan. I certainly hope so. Yeah. Anyway, all right. If you don't have any last minute questions, we'll call it a night. It's been real, folks. We love y'all. It should be corded into ratchets, SJWs, and hood rats. Nah, I mean, hood rats and ratchets go hand in hand. SJWs are completely different. I did think about having SJW madness, like a separate one. Lawsuit madness, yeah. The press conference, it made me sick too, Lacey. It's like, I was really disappointed in that. I didn't appreciate their tone. I didn't appreciate the fact that they were laughing at the beginning. It just seemed like they sent in the B squad there for such a serious press conference. It seemed like they were not taking it seriously at all. I was very disappointed in that. That's true. As David makes a really good point. He said the police said Jussie wasn't lying at first too. That's actually an excellent point, David, right? And I kind of thought about that with this whole story. It's like, well, yeah, that's what they're saying, that it's over, right? Maybe because that's what they want Dante to believe. So as Willie says, they posted today that they're still investigating. I hope so. But that woman never should have been the spokesperson at the conference. She came across like a moron. Anyway. No, I'm not a cop, Ruben. I'm not a cop. I'm not 5-0. You're good here. You're good here, son. All right, guys. We're going to call it a night. That's it for today. And we will see you guys all on Thursday night. All right? Peace, Turtle Riders.